The patriarchy does not mean men. Every time I discuss the patriarchy, the comments fill with not all men, or women are worse to each other, or as a man, I can tell you we don't care about this. And that's the misunderstanding, because patriarchy was never about what individual men think or intend. It's a system, and crucially, it hurts men and women, boys and girls, which is exactly why we need men to understand it too. Think of it like gravity. It operates whether you believe in it or not. Patriarchy literally means rule of the father, and it describes a social system where men hold primary power across political leadership, property, moral authority, and social privilege. You can see it in the gender pay gap, in who sits in parliament and boardrooms, in the cultural expectation that men lead and women care, and historically in the laws that stopped women from voting or owning property, or why inheritance and surnames pass through the father's line, despite the fact that the baby comes from the mother's body. It's not a secret boardroom of men plotting against women, just centuries of these norms becoming so embedded that we stop questioning them at all. And like any system built on an imbalance of power, it benefits some people enormously and asks everyone else just to accept it as the natural order. But yes, the comments are right. Women uphold it too. The mum shaming, the body policing.
To call yourself plus size is simply a euphemism for being fat, and who wants to be fat?
But I think slut shaming.
Perhaps you should embroider a red A on your wardrobe, you abominable tramp.
Tearing other women down and using labels as weapons against each other. This is called internalized misogyny, and it's not proof that patriarchy isn't real. It's proof of how deeply embedded it is. It's working so well, it doesn't even need men to enforce it anymore. And the deeply ironic thing is that the women who uphold it most loudly are usually the first ones it turns on. For the men saying, I treat women equally, or that's never been my experience, or none of my friends think this way, that might be genuinely true for you. But systems of power are most invisible to the people they benefit. That's not an insult, that's just how they work. And for anyone saying we're equal now, the data says otherwise. The global gender pay gap, the gender pain gap, the fact women still do 9 more hours of unpaid labour a week than men. Only 1 in 7 countries is led by a woman. Men don't have laws varying from state to state, country to country, governing what they can do with their own bodies. That's not an opinion, that's data, and that's before we even touch on male violence against women and girls and all the societal double standards. And here's what else people forget. Patriarchy harms men too. The don't cry, be the provider, never show weakness messaging.
Everywhere you look, all you see is soft-ass men with no backbone, no pride in being men at all.
That comes from the same system. Male loneliness, the pressure, the inability to ask for help. It all stems from the idea that anything considered feminine is weak or lesser.
And somewhere along the line, I feel like this feminist movement convinced men that being masculine was toxic.
Just like you run like a girl.
You run like a girl.
It's the perfect example of how femininity gets weaponized. So when I talk about patriarchy, I'm not blaming individual men, and I'm not letting women off the hook either. I'm talking about a system that shrinks women and limits men, one that concentrates on power in the hands of a very specific group and asks the rest of us to keep defending it without ever questioning why.
The only logical conclusion as to why patriarchy exists today is because collectively men got their feelings hurt. Nobody really talks about this. But think about it logically for a second. For most of human prehistory, hundreds of thousands of years before about 10,000 BC, there's just strong evidence that humans did not know what caused pregnancy. That's not a crazy idea, it's just logic. We had no framework for invisible biological processes. What we forget is that women have always automatically known who their children are. We gave birth to them. That knowledge requires nothing. No system, no rules, no control. There was never a reason to control female sexuality until someone decided children were property. The control didn't come from nature, it came from ownership. Sex happens, and then nothing visible happens for weeks, months. After 9 months, a baby appears. Early humans had no concept of sperm or microscopes or biology. And the women in early hunter-gatherer societies likely had multiple partners. There was no church telling them not to. So the connection between any one man and a pregnancy, it's genuinely unclear. For a very long time, in a sense, there was no concept at all of a father. And during all of that time, men were watching women do something they couldn't do. Create life. There's actually anthropological evidence of this. There were rituals where men simulated pregnancy, labor, even menstruation. Men were trying to belong to the creation process. That's just a very deep wound that we're dealing with now for a really long time. Patriarchy is just all of us having to pay for that deep emotional wound. Tens of thousands of years of feeling peripheral, as men did, to the most fundamental thing humans do is going to create some bad feelings. Here's probably where everything changed. Around 10,000 BC, humans started domesticating animals, goats, cattle, sheep. For the first time, you could watch a ram mate with an ewe, isolate her, and see the lamb. Controlled observation, that's likely the moment men figured out their role. And after tens of thousands of years of feeling like they didn't have a role, that click was psychologically explosive. And here's the thing we need to understand. A group that has the physical capacity, strength to dominate other people like men do, needs to feel that they matter in a way that doesn't require domination. That's a stabilizing force. If you take that away for thousands of years and then give them a wound that deep, and when they finally find they're in, the overcorrection makes sense psychologically. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it legible. And then we've got the birth of the Almighty Father. Because ownership only works if you know what's yours. Women always knew their children. They gave birth to them. Men needed something new, control of female sexuality. And that's where marriage comes from. Virginity culture, inheritance law, organized religion, encoding female purity. You get it. You plant an ownership flag in the ground and suddenly you need a fence all around it. All of it downstream of one moment of biological realization turned into a civilization power grab for men. We built an entire civilization on top of men's paternity anxiety. And we've never really stopped to ask where that started and what it's costing all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to this brilliant woman. Watch.
If you listen to men talk and you actually pay attention to the logic they use, you'll learn something really wild. And that's that nobody hates men more than other men. So let me explain. They say a woman who sleeps with a man loses value. But when a man sleeps with a woman, he gains value. So being with a man makes you worth less, and being with a woman makes you worth more. At first it sounds like it's about hating women, but think about it. They're not saying that women are gross. They are saying that men ruin women just by being with them. It's not misogyny, it's straight up self-hatred. They act like men are contaminated, like just being near one drops your social credit score. They don't want you to have guy friends, they don't want you to have a past. Because in their eyes, men ruin women. So here's the kicker, if they hate men so much, why is it a problem when we do? It wasn't feminism that made women say men are trash. It was them. Every time they say a woman's value drops after sex, they're calling themselves a disease, a stain, something to avoid. And it's sad because they're lonely. Men keep saying there is a male loneliness crisis. But here's why nobody wants you. The people that love you, the straight women and the gay men, are constantly being told that loving you is shameful. So don't cry when women say men are trash. You started it. You gave us the math, and according to your logic, women who sleep with other women have the highest value. That means the only people that everyone should want to sleep with are women. Men don't want to be seen as loved. They want to be seen as filthy. So yeah, it's okay to hate men because clearly they hate themselves first.
I don't think there is anything else I need to add because this is the exact same thing I have been screaming for months. You guys remember that video that was made by a very person trying to experiment the difference between a man cheating and a woman cheating using a glass cup of water and carrots, and then he said once the men enter they leave the woman dirty. So that's the same thing this woman is saying. And just in case you want to cry, I have buckets.
Talk about the structures of marriage. People love to talk about that type of shit. I want to hear you talk about it.
I mean, marriage is literally invented as the slavery of women. They called slavery of black people chattel slavery, and they called the slavery of women marriage. It was made up to trade women as property because patriarchy happened first. At the end of the Neolithic era, when people started farming, certain people were like, well, if we farm, then we need private property to say what land is mine so that I know what food is mine. And therefore, what we were doing before, where people had kids and everybody raised everybody, it's like, now I need to know what children are mine because I need to know who I can make work this farm and who I'm responsible to feed. And in order to know what children is mine, I need to know what woman is mine. And boom, you get marriage. And then that goes to Europe and then gets Christianized and then they use Christianity as a weapon, as a sword to hold to all of our necks to colonize the entire planet. The normative culture that we're all treated like is just regular when it's actually very new.
I mean, Brandy and Monica knew about it because they said the boy is mine.
Boys are not easier to raise. Boys are easier to neglect. Patriarchy is literally designed for the neglect of young boys. The patriarchy is literally the hands that will catch a man when he inevitably is failed by society because he is much easier to neglect. Patriarchy is literally based upon the ability for men to be as lazy as possible. That's really what it is. Men can sit here and say, oh, we've created the world, we've built the world. No, powerful men have built the world. Powerful men have created the world. The average man has not contributed anything to the world. The average man was given a job and told what to do by a man that was more powerful than him. And due to their submissive nature, they listened, they followed instructions, and they helped build the world based off of the instruction of a more powerful man. By their own volition, men did not just wake up one day and decide to build the world. They decided to build the world based off of their hatred of women. Literally every single thing that is created in society from a man is based off of his hatred for women. This is why it's so crazy. Even though this looks different in different eras, you still see it today. You see it on a very small scale here on social media. Whenever women have a trend or whenever women come up with their own standard, the next thing that happens is all of a sudden men piggyback off of what that standard is. Oh, you want a man with money? Well, I'm going to be financially celibate. Oh, you want to do sprinkle, sprinkle? Well, then I'm going to do drizzle, drizzle. They're going to come up with every single thing to piggyback off of the competition that they have with women. Because men have been in such a far state of perpetual neglect. Men don't know how to meet their match in other men and feel confident competing with another man. Everything created by a man, most of the time, the fuel that he had in order for it to be created or for him to do it was because he just simply did not like women. Had nothing to do with the fact that he wanted to do it on his own. And then they try to reframe it as like, oh, well, I'm more powerful than you. I don't have to do anything. No, you're fucking lazy. And you're a danger to society. You think laws were created because of women? You think laws were created because women were having sex with 9-year-olds? You think laws were created because women were having sex with animals? You think child support was created because women weren't taking care of their children? No. The laws that you see today are literally created due to men. I would probably say 98% of laws started with men being the ones to enact that behavior out first. And then they saw that it was repeated. And then they realized this is a part of human behavior and it's more prevalent in men. And so therefore we need to create a law. This is why I don't feel bad when, especially like the men that share the same skin tone as me, they are so upset about like prison and da-da-da. I get it. There's a pipeline, there's redlining, there's all types of things like that. But they do that based on the human behavior that they already see. They know that men are going to enact violence whenever they don't get their way. They know that men are going to enact violence just because they had a bad day that day. Even with the whole child support thing. Child support was created because they seen a pattern in men not taking care of their fucking children. Like, men are very neglectful at how they're raised because by nature, they are willing to neglect themselves. They don't care about their health. They don't care about their appearance. They don't care about how they show up in society. They live a life of neglect. Patriarchy catches them, and then they're allowed to live a life where they then neglect themselves. And because the neglect has started from such a young age, they get the advantage of patriarchy of being able to lack accountability and point the finger and blame everybody else as to why they have not been able to achieve whatever it is that they wanted to achieve. So because they've been neglected, they turn to women to be the ones to fix what's going on. Women have to be the ones to fix the problems. Women are not going to sit here and fix up your piss poor manner due to you being neglected, because you just live in a society that just simply because you have a dick and balls that just writes you off as being this person that can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Here's a huge lie of the patriarchy that I fell for a long time. And it's the idea that men just inherently need respect. And so therefore, if your partner, your wife, anybody brings a message to you and it's not delivered with respect and decorum and politeness, that therefore the message can be disregarded. What a joke. You probably heard the quote from Laurel Thatcher Ulrich that well-behaved women seldom make history. I wonder why that is. Right? It's because men will not hear anything that is delivered with politeness in a culture that reinforces constantly the power dynamic that we are in charge. Right? So everything else that's delivered with decorum is able to be easily dismissed, right? Because now we're just chatting, we're just having a night, we're just having a friendly debate. And whatever your idea is not my idea, and we can agree to disagree. And because I am the one in power, I get to do what I want to do. And if you come at me with any level of intensity or passion, then oh my gosh, you're just an emotional creature and you need to be under control and put in check. How sad. In fact, we did put women literally in mental institutions for decades because they were speaking up, and we called them insane. There's insanity here, but it was never the women. Never. And this played out so sadly in my own life, because I have an incredible partner who is a badass and so talented, but I couldn't see her because she had been told that she couldn't speak up for her needs necessarily. And she also assumed, rightly, that somebody who really loves her would be leaning in with curiosity and would want to know what she was thinking. And so when she would bring up an idea that was uncomfortable to my own fragility, I would debate it. And if she did get passionate, I would say, you need to calm down, we're just talking here. And no surprise, eventually she stopped telling me the things that were important to her. And when I finally discovered that years later, there's some things you can't undo. And I don't know if we'll be able to repair our communication. I think we're on the path to do that. I don't know if we'll be able to repair our intimacy. That may be irreparable. So I just hope that somebody else can hear that. Somebody else can see this and do better. Do better.
So the patriarchy is like a man having his boot on a woman's neck. Feminism is women asking that the boot be removed. Men's rights activists think that having to take their boot off a woman's neck is some sort of reverse oppression. Conservatives figure that there was never a problem with the boot being on the neck until the woman started complaining about it, and if everybody would just shut the fuck up, things would be fine. Good guys take any complaint about the boot as a personal attack because not all men wear boots. Male allies try to discuss the issue in a way without alienating the boot. Women with internalized misogyny don't know why these other women are complaining about the boot on their neck. They love having the boot on their neck, and there's something wrong with the women who complain. Meanwhile, the boot stays on the fucking neck.
There's no such thing as high-value women because men don't value women.
My name's Dr. Kramer. I'm an expert and researcher in this area. And ladies, I'm going to break this down for you so well that you're never going to unsee it. This is the ambivalent sexism framework, and it is the foundation of patriarchy. Benevolent sexism rewards women for inhabiting traditional gender roles and upholding patriarchal norms and values. Hostile sexism punishes women for subverting them. Benevolent sexism creates this false pedestal where women are praised and valued. But as soon as she asserts autonomy, boundaries, prioritizes her own needs, or challenges male authority, she will be deemed low value and punished with hostile sexism. This entire framework reveals how women's value is always conditional and transactional. What gets labeled as being high value? Being nurturing, sexually available, but never too sexual. Beautiful, but not threatening. Accomplished, but not competitive. These are all characteristics that serve male interests and maintain patriarchal structures. And this reveals the lie at the center of the concept. Women aren't being valued for their inherent humanity, intelligence, or personhood. They're evaluated based on their utility to men and the patriarchal system. Women will be good or bad, high or low, based on how well they serve male interests and fantasies. Under patriarchy, no woman can be high value because the system doesn't recognize women as inherently valuable. A woman's value is always contingent and revocable, dependent on male approval and ongoing service to male interests. The entire concept is a patriarchal tool meant to keep women competing against each other for male validation, rather than recognizing that the entire evaluation system is bullshit.